Hello, it's a pleasure to speak with you today about the vital importance of voting. And thank you to the Pennsylvania Bar Association's Law Related Education Committee for sponsoring this program. It couldn't be more timely as the November 3rd presidential election is quickly approaching in a little over a month. Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, is expected to play a key role in this election. So I really encourage every eligible Pennsylvanian to make sure to exercise your precious right to vote. Some of you may be first-time voters, and some of you may not yet be eligible to vote. But I hope that you're already thinking about registering to vote as soon as you're eligible. I remember that I couldn't wait to vote. I didn't turn 18 until I was already in college, but once I started voting, I got hooked. But if you had told me that 33 years later I would be Secretary of State, overseeing elections in one of the largest swing states in the country, I would have told you were out of your mind. However, as Pennsylvania's Secretary of State and Chief Election Official, as well as a former voting rights attorney, I can tell you that I know we can never take our right to vote for granted, nor should any one of us. Some Americans had to fight against terrible odds, endure great sacrifices, and wait far too long in order to be able to exercise the most fundamental right in a democracy. We just celebrated on August 26th the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave women the right to vote. Women, half of our citizenry, had to wait 144 years after the birth of our country to vote. African Americans had to wait even longer, fighting until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which finally gave unfettered access to the voting booth. And it wasn't until 1971, less than 50 years ago, that young Americans ages 18 to 20 obtained the right to vote. Up until that time, you had to be 21 years old to cast a ballot. Yet many Americans somehow persist in the belief that one vote, their vote, won't matter. They forget that the 2000 presidential election was decided by a mere 537 votes in Florida. That's about the size of a student body in the average American high school. Never take your right to vote for granted or assume it won't make a difference. In order to encourage young people to get involved and register to vote, this administration, Governor Wolf's administration, created the Governor's Civic Engagement Award for Pennsylvania high schools about 3 years ago. Schools that register to vote at least 65% of their eligible students, as well as students who work as poll workers, can win recognition and awards. Even if your school isn't already participating in the program, I urge you to consider planning a voter registration event at your school or to volunteering to serve as a poll worker. You can find more information at votespa.com. Not only is exercising your right to vote key for the continuation and advancement of our democracy, but it's also more convenient and secure than ever before in Pennsylvania. Now you have 3 options about how to vote in Pennsylvania. Recently, Pennsylvania introduced mail-in voting that every Pennsylvanian can vote by mail for any reason or no reason at all. You can apply now online for a ballot at votespa.com, receive it in the mail within the next couple of weeks, fill it out curled up in bed with your dog, and return it weeks before Election Day. Go to votespa.com. Don't wait. Do it today. Beginning in the next week or so, you can also vote early in person on paper ballot at your county election offices. Call ahead. You could go to votespa.com. We have all the contact information about your county election office. Call ahead, find out what their hours are, and then you could go in person at any time. That's how I'm going to vote this year. I'm going to, next week, call my county election office, go in person, apply for my ballot, fill it out while I'm there, and cast it all in one visit on my own schedule. And of course, you could vote the traditional way. You can go to the polls on Election Day on November 3rd, vote anytime between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and all 67 counties are now using new secure voting systems with voter verifiable paper ballots. Whichever way you vote, all 3 methods of voting are safe, secure, and accessible, and ensure that your vote will be counted. In the last 2 years, we have strengthened security and integrity even more, while at the same time increasing access to the vote. If you vote by mail or early in person, our strong processes require your application to be checked and your eligibility to be confirmed by the county election office, and no voter is mailed a ballot unless they are determined first to be eligible. Counties do an excellent job and take this responsibility very seriously. If you vote in person on Election Day, that will also be safe and secure. As I mentioned, we required all counties to upgrade their voting systems to new voter-verifiable paper ballot voting systems, meeting the highest standards of accessibility and security. And we are providing all polling places with masks, gloves, face shields, sneeze guards, tape to mark social distancing, disinfectant spray, hand sanitizer, and more. It will be a safe, secure situation. Wear a mask, wash your hands before and afterwards, and of course, maintain social distance. And of course, all three of these options require that you first register to vote. The deadline to register for this year is October 19th, and you can do that online at votespa.com. It's very easy. So this fall, I urge you to do three things, in addition to studying hard, of course. If you're old enough and meet the other eligibility requirements, register to vote and cast your ballot in the November 3rd election, either by mail, early in person, or on Election Day at the polls. Our democracy works best when everyone participates. 2, consider serving as a poll worker. My first job in elections was as a poll worker, and I can tell you, you never feel more like you're part of that wheel of democracy as you do when you are literally helping every American exercise their right to vote. 3, think about what you see on social media before you retweet or repost. Unfortunately, in every election cycle, dishonest sources deliberately spread false information to try to suppress the vote. Do not let them achieve that goal. There's all kinds of misinformation and untrue claims about mail-in voting, about polling place hours, any number of other things that are deliberately put out there, known to be false, to confuse and shake people's confidence. Help us fight that. Rely only on trusted information and trusted sources, such as our website, votespa.com. You can also call 877-VOTES-PA if you have questions about anything you see. And you can also call your county election office. You can find everything you need, from voter registration to requesting a mail-in ballot, to information about your voting systems, deadlines, the location of your polling place, and much more information at votespa.com. American democracy has endured and thrived for 244 years because each generation has stepped up to meet its civic responsibilities, including voting in elections, serving as poll workers, running for office, and defending and protecting voting rights. When you turn 18, please join us to continue that long tradition and begin participating in the civic life of our nation. The future of our democracy depends on it and depends on you. Thank you, and see you at the polls.